Look at that face. Isn't she adorable? What's up, everybody? Today we're checking out some brand new creatures for Ark Survival Ascended, but we're gonna do it in order of size, starting from the smallest creature on the list, this little cat, or more specifically, the Felis from Atlas Creatures. Now, on top of the standard shoulder pet abilities, this guy is also hiding a secret superpower. So imagine you're out one day, running down the beach, and you're unfortunate enough to come across an alpha raptor. This thing tears you and your cat to shreds. With a normal shoulder pet, that's pretty much that. But with the Felis, he'll respawn again after a short amount of time, using up one of his 9 lives. This is the shoulder pet I would want to take into caves, into the Wyvern Trench, and pretty much anywhere that may be a little bit dangerous because, well, you have 8 chances to get it right before you need to go tame a new one. Next, we have another shoulder pet with a crazy survival mechanic. Aside from being super cute and sticking to your back like a backpack, it actually has some great utility. They're able to drop off their tail on command and regenerate it within a few minutes. This is actually more overpowered than it sounds. If you ever find yourself in a fight you can't handle, you can just command your gecko to drop its tail, which will immediately de-aggro anything that's chasing you, giving you a second chance to run away. And you don't have to worry, a new tail will regrow in the next couple of minutes. Next on the list, we have Human NPCs ASA. When you have this mod installed, they'll spawn across the map in tribes. They can hunt, gather, some of them can even tame and ride creatures. Like I saw this one armed with a spear walking around on a pterodon. They also seem to have different levels of equipment, some with more primitive types, and some armed with heavier armor and bolas. They can also spawn friendly or hostile, in which case they will attack you on sight. They're actually kind of dangerous because they can use bolas and weapons, and they will swarm you with the whole tribe at the same time, which can be a little bit scary. But if you're well prepared, you can tame them and have them come work for you instead. The easiest ways to do this is through passive tame. They'll take most foods from your 0 slot and are surprisingly easy to get. If they're hostile, however, you may not have that option and you'll need to resort to a knockout tame. Keep in mind, this takes a ton of time and a lot of narcotic. Once you do have them as part of your tribe, you can have them go out and gather or protect your base. There's actually a ton of stuff they can do, too much to cover in this video, but I would suggest checking out the full guide on the modders page. I'll link it in the description below. Now we have either the cutest or the most terrifying creature on the list, depending on how you feel about spiders. The jumping spider from Cyrus Critters is one of the newest additions to the list, and it is incredibly useful. It can climb up walls like a thyla, it can make massive jumps like a frog or a kangaroo, it can pounce on enemies and immediately immobilize them. And you have a choice between doing normal or torpor damage, which leaves you a lot of opportunity for taming. Now there are some downsides to these guys. They are fairly small, so most other creatures will attack them, and they don't have a ton of health, so it's almost always best to run away. They are passive tame too, but they have a very unique little mechanic, and it's different depending on whether you're trying to tame a male or a female spider, but overall it's very much manageable. It will just take you a little bit of time. If you're not afraid of spiders, I highly recommend getting one of these guys. They're super fun to ride around on. Next, we have a water mount, and it's an all-around great creature. The Moros Tylosaurus is fast, it's strong, and it has the ability to produce different kinds of venom in its inventory, one of which you can even convert to narcotics. Now this thing is like a distant cousin of the Mosa, but with better movement and utility. In my testing, I found it very easy to take on pretty much anything, but there are a few considerations you need to keep in mind. The first is, unlike most large creatures, other sea creatures will tend to aggro to it, specifically sharks, so you will be doing a lot of fighting if you're using it to get around the water. And the second is, these guys are not immune to jellyfish and electricity damage, meaning that while the creature can pretty much take on anything, one jellyfish attack will dismount and easily take out your character. The Moros themselves seem to be able to handle the jellyfish without the rider, but if your character is riding on top, they will not survive the journey. All in all though, it's a really fun water mount, and it has a ton of utility because of its venoms and the ability to passively generate resources. Now we have another creature you didn't know you needed, the Colossuscorpius. These guys are very fast on land, super strong against most creatures you'll come across, and they have some really neat abilities. Like their secondary attack does a ton of torpor damage, which can help you knock out creatures. Their special ability is even better though, because it allows you to pick up players and other creatures in its claws, which is surprisingly helpful in a lot of situations, especially if you're playing in PvP maps or like me playing with the NPC mod. You can immediately neutralize a small target without taking any damage. The other thing that makes them awesome is they come with two different saddles. The first saddle is the one that you can use to just ride around on. Second one is a platform saddle, which gives you some freedom for building. Next, we have another new water creature, and this one is even more unique. These guys are very much worth taming because they are everything you could want for a water travel mount. They're fast, they're strong, and best of all, they are completely immune to jellyfish and all forms of electricity. They also have a few interesting attacks. The first is the charged frontal attack, which reminds me a little of Wyvern Breath, and the second one is this like ball of electricity that shocks everything that's near it. Now it's super hard to aim, but if you're fighting a small group of creatures, it can actually be pretty useful. To be able to use these powers, you need to fulfill two requirements. First, you need to be in water, and second, you need to consume biotoxin, which will charge up your bar that you see at the bottom. Once you have one of these guys, you can get it pretty easily by eating jellyfish, and it's completely safe for the rider. These guys are very difficult to tame. Once you have one though, it'll be super easy to get around the map in water. Next up, we have the Meraxes. Now, this creature is a mix between a T-Rex and a Gecko. It does a ton of damage and has access to some strong abilities, especially when enraged, but it's not as strong and tanky as a Giga normally would be. The interesting thing here is that it uses the same rage mechanic. The rage is actually a 100% buff, and it triggers way before the creature is in any danger. With its rage active, it gets a ton of new abilities, it lights up in this very cool way, and you're able to push away creatures, stun them, slow them, and heal much faster through the food in your inventory. This may not be as unique as some of the other creatures on this list, but it's a super useful utility mount and really nice to have around. And lastly, we have the Godzillark. This is the most insane and overpowered creature you can imagine. It's as big as a titanosaur, but with 10 times the strength and damage. This thing can kill a max level Giga in 2 bites, no problem. It is fast on land, it is fast in water, it can jump, it can grab almost any dino, and its secondary attack is a literal atomic explosion. Now, I don't think there's anything in the game that could take out this creature, but it's not exactly easy to come across. There's actually a whole crafting process involved in making an egg. For the full instructions on how to get this thing, check out the Discord of the creator. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one.